Hello everybody, welcome to episode 6 of Looking Beyond Black Ops 2's multiplayer maps. So, I understand that I haven't been here for about a week and a bit. I've just been feeling a little bit burnt out with these videos, to be honest with you. It's just to do the same thing every 2 days, minus the weekend. Does get a little bit repetitive, but I'm here, I'm back, let's get this done. We got 4 more episodes in the multiplayer world, and then we're going to zombies and finishing up there. So, let's get into it. Today's video is Revolution. Loading up downhill, the first thing I wanted to look at was this little building right here. There's not really anything going on except that thin black abyss, but I thought it was worth looking into. The fun bag is next, and there is a solid top on here, which is pretty cool. And it looks like some of the snow has geometry in it. Pretty interesting. Like always, I look at my inaccessible doors. Anything going on here? Nope. Actually, throughout most of this map, there's not much going behind any accessible doors, except one. Kinda. So this part here threw me in a loop a little bit, because I looked through the inaccessible door and it does have solid flooring, but I eventually had fallen through and found what I thought was a different room for some reason because of the angle I was looking at it from, and then I realized, oh, I was just here. So if you decide to venture out behind the spawn of the cabin, you will notice that there's a lot of collision to go around here, and you shouldn't have much trouble getting up to this hill where I am. You'll notice that the trees do become 2D textures rather quickly, but at least the rocks surrounding us are still 3D, even if they don't have collision, and are in fact, stay with me ladies and gentlemen, low resolution. There's a half pipe behind the opposing spawn, which does have collision, and if you have super speed, low gravity, and super jump all in one, you'll be able to fly off these things, which can be quite entertaining. Despite how cool the half pipe is, you will lose collision very quickly here. It just doesn't last as long as it does in the opposing spawn. So if you walk on the surface just under the gondola lifts out of the map, you will notice it has collision, which is pretty shocking. I'm sure it'd be fun just to get super speed and everything like that and just dolphin dive right off and see how far you can go. So I noticed there are 2 subcategories of an out-of-bounds section. There's one that relies on civilization and one that relies on environment. Maps like Drone and Downhill will fit the bill for environmental, while maps like Nuketown and Plaza would probably fit the bill for civilization more. What makes this an interesting topic for me to mention though is that environmental seems to have a bigger focus on verticality to sort of hide things and give you that immersion into a map, while something with civilization uses a whole slew of assets and takes advantage of distance to make its immersion work. So they have 2 different properties that work really well with each other. So the first thing I did when loading up Mirage was take a look at the center building. I specifically wanted to know what is underneath all that sand. Well, when we enter the room, the assets themselves don't have collision, but the room itself mostly does. The door doesn't really, but it has some solidarity in there, even if it's not itself, I guess you could say. Nothing special in these vaults, but I thought it was cool to take a look no less. Next up was taking a look at the stories of each building to see if there's anything on the higher floors, and unfortunately they go bare for the most part. I found the 3rd floor of the center building to be slightly underwhelming, I guess you could say. It's a shame too, because you can sort of walk on it, not really, you're walking on a platform above it, probably the invisible ceiling, but the room we were just in was like the one before, but the difference was there was no spinning door, it's just a normal one. However, the invisible doors led me out here, kinda, and I can walk in some places, but I sort of float on top of others. It's a little bit gimmicky here, but at least they got that. So Mirage is unfortunately not the most interesting map to explore, and that's because there's not a lot going on here. There's a lot of inclines and a couple buildings here and there, but it's interesting. It's interesting because for the first time, you feel truly alone exploring these maps. There is nothing in Mirage outside of its main area, plus a couple things. You are almost completely isolated from whatever world around you. Also, the skybox is pink underneath us? So these heat waves are just layers of the map, sort of like a filter that you can see from inside. So it looks like there's a bunch of refraction happening around you. But there's just points in the map where when you stand in, you yourself start refracting. So that's kind of interesting. Also, we got swimmable water, ladies and gentlemen. We have swimmable water. That is always a big plus in my book. It's kind of a shame that there's not a lot to teach you guys. Also, yes, I just did collide with a refraction. So I think we can promptly move on to our next map, which is going to be Hydro. Hydro has a few interesting goodies that Mirage does not. So let's get right into them. So this part of the map had me flabbergasted. Behind the spawn, you're probably looking at this right now and wondering, well, what's so unique about this? It probably has a solid floor, non-solid objects, probably doesn't have a building with solidarity either. And no, it doesn't. And even more so, collides into a mountain. So, you're probably wondering even further, what is so special here? I was shocked to find this, but there is a crawl space underneath the road that you can only go into when you're proning, and then you try to get out of it while proning, nothing will happen. So you can only enter here if you're proning, and I thought that was super interesting because why would they have a perfectly sized crawl space for the player when they can't even access it? From here, I decided it was time to look at the other spawn to see if there's anything cool here, and no, not really. Same ordeal minus the crawl space, so it's basically the same, but infinitely less cool. And the road just ends abruptly this time, so we got that. As for the water section here, I wanted to take a look at what was going on inside here, and yeah, it's not much, unfortunately. I don't know what it is, but I've always had a fascination of water things like this. I love water, what can I say? So what happens when we dolphin dive off the map? Well, we eventually hit an invisible wall, and then we just go right through. The water isn't swimmable here. But I did want to try something, and yes, you can slide down it, which is really fun. I do have low gravity on, so that probably explains why I'm doing it so slowly, but still, really fun. Make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, Hydro is a big map when it comes to its out-of-bounds section. Probably not as big as Cargo, but definitely like second or third. It's massive, and it's the fact that I have super jump, super speed, and time scales, and low gravity enabled, and it's still not fast enough. I had to speed up the video twice as fast, and yeah, it's a massive map. But on the same token, it's pretty cool. I do like the out of bounds here. In my travels, I noticed that there was two buildings on the side of the map. One was a house, which was clipped into the mountain, and I don't know what the other thing was, but it too was clipped inside. So I wanted to sort of examine how the water worked in the other part of the map, and it's pretty similar. It eventually just turns off into a part where you can't see it anymore, which makes sense, but the fact that there's so much environmental detail here is pretty cool. Even if it's just as simple as a bridge and a couple buildings and the rest of it is just waters and mountains, it's still really cool. And what's interesting is, if you allow yourself to float down, which bear with me, this will take a while because of low gravity, the water, get this, if you see me put my gun away like that, that means that you can swim in the water. So the top of the dam is actually swimmable, but the bottom is not. I still thought it was really worth noting though, it's super cool. Grind is the last map on this list, and it has some decent stuff for me to share with you guys, so let's get on with that. So a little camera sits up on this ramp, and while it's not the greatest looking detail of all time, it is still a nice little additive to the map, just to give it a little bit more flair. I want to check out these plants as well, and, well, they're a little bit glitchy. You fall through the ground sometimes, but other times you don't. It's a little bit inconsistent, but I still thought it was nice to see the plantation on this map. Are you interested in Grind's toilet? Oh, of course you are. Well, good to know that the shit doesn't directly come from the toilet itself, but rather it's just a particle effect that is used just outside the door, which is pretty cool. The other toilets don't have much character to them, but for such confined spaces, they look nice. What's going on with the blinds in the middle of the map? Well, nothing much, but the fact that they're two-sided textures is pretty cool in its own right. While I'm digging around on one ramp, I want to take a look at these bleachers, and yeah, for inaccessible space, they look nice, they fit the map well. And I also want to take a look at the outside of it, of which I do. And the collision gives out almost immediately. I found the collision in this map, actually, to be kind of weird. It's a little bit inconsistent. Places that should have it don't, places that shouldn't have it do. There's even a basketball court out here, which I didn't even notice. It says a lot about how Black Ops 2 looks as a whole. even this beach and this ramp right here, they're all very well done assets, but you never get to notice these because the inside of the map is always so gratifying in its own way. Google Maps is back and being about as useful as it always is. Beside mountains with an extremely low polygon count, and even clipping through one, because it can do that. Such as the ways of Google Maps, I guess. Unfortunate that you can never see this without mods, though. I'm not sure if I should be surprised by this, but I've always associated Burger Town to be a Modern Warfare 2 and 3 thing, considering Modern Warfare 2 had the campaign mission where you were literally fighting for control of it. But, yeah, it's here, and I don't mind that. Again, I don't know if I should be surprised, but I am. You also gotta appreciate everything else around Burger Town. For our last stop, we are Jesusing the waters, because that is what we do here in Beyond Black Ops 2's multiplayer maps. Jesus all the way. So I'm gonna address the elephant in the room. If it seems like I'm getting burnt out, maybe I'm losing a little bit of passion, maybe you're worried that it took me so long to get this video out, to be honest with you, that is kind of the truth. I am a little bit burnt out from these kind of videos. Now, it's no disrespect to anybody or anything like that, and don't get me wrong, I still absolutely love Black Ops 2. It's my favorite COD in basically every way. But, it's just that this is mostly what I've been uploading recently, and sometimes I just need to change the channel, I guess you could say. I gotta change my flow. I just need something a little bit different from time to time. So, hopefully I'm planning on going back to my Monday, Wednesday, Friday upload schedule, and I might switch gears a little bit there, where I may do a different video come Friday instead of episode 7, so I hope you'll understand if that's the case. But whatever I do make, I hope it's not too bad for some of you more passionate viewers out there who want to come, regardless if it's this kind of video or not. So, thank you all for watching, and I thank you for your potential understanding as well. Again, I'm sorry that I took like 9 days to get this one out, but yeah, I just need to slow down on this a little bit. So hopefully regular scheduled uploading will return, but it may not always be this specific kind of content. Don't you worry though, I'll try my best to keep you entertained. So anyway, I want to thank you all for being here. Have a great day. Take care for now. Goodbye.